All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's call this meeting to order. Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the July 21st, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as amended with the additional sundry item? Councillor Chenard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the June 16th, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. And with much anticipation, we do have a public hearing this evening. And before we begin the public hearing, I'm going to run through the process for tonight. A public hearing is a formal place for council to get public input on items such as the development that is being proposed this evening. It is very much like a legal proceeding, where comments from the public, either for or against, are put on the record for council to consider before making a final decision later on in the meeting. This is much different than an open house where questions can be asked, comments made, and where more informal discussions can occur. There won't be any decisions during the public hearing. Decisions will be made later in the council agenda, which you can watch on the Town of Edson YouTube channel or at edson.ca/live. A link is available on our Facebook page and on the Town of Edson website. There are two bylaws being considered tonight, one dealing with the area structure plan and the other being the rezoning. Both are related to each other, and as such, there is one single public hearing to deal with both bylaws. The start of the public hearing will begin with the developer, who will have 5 minutes to explain his proposal. This will be followed by public comments. At this time, please use the raise your hand feature to indicate that you would like to speak and wait to be called upon. Everyone will have the chance to speak, but only once, unless council has a question. I will introduce each speaker. As your name is called, you will be prompted to unmute and begin speaking. In the case there's no response after 10 seconds, I will say your name again and wait 5 more seconds. If still no response, we will move on to the next speaker. Each registered speaker has up to 5 minutes to speak. Please indicate at the beginning of your speech whether you are for or against the proposed changes. You do not have to speak for that long unless you'd like to. At the 5-minute mark, you will be cut off in order for the next speaker to be heard. As we have a large amount of speakers, 43 registered tonight, and in order to ensure fairness, I will be not allowing anybody to go over. Council may ask each speaker questions following their presentations. Once again, this will not be a place for debate, and due to the amount of speakers, I'd ask council be concise and only ask questions if necessary. After public comments are heard, the developer will have another 2 minutes at the end of the hearing to make any closing comments. At that point, the public hearing will be closed and those registered to speak will be asked to disconnect. The rest of the meeting can be watched via the Town of Edson YouTube channel or at edson.ca/live. This is where second and third reading will be considered by council. Questions and comments regarding this and remaining items from the meeting can be sent via email to civiccenter@edson.ca. Results and notes from the meeting will be posted tomorrow on the Town of Edson website, mobile app, and social media. Now, before we start, on behalf of council, I do want to thank each and every individual for providing correspondence and feedback to council during this process. I know it can be frustrating to have an open house, then have to provide feedback again during a public hearing, but it's critical to our democratic process. It is important to note that the open house that was held earlier this year was for the developer to hear feedback from residents before deciding whether or not to move through the costly and time-consuming process of an area structure plan and rezoning. As the developer has elected to proceed, we must ensure proper process, and as such, we are having the public hearing tonight. This is a formal process allowing all sides to have their say on the public record before council can make a final decision. On that note, let's call this public hearing to order, and we will start with the developer, Mr. Dwayne Martin. Go ahead, Mr. Martin, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, council, and good evening, your worship, Mr. Kevin Sahara. Thank you for this opportunity, and I too would like to thank everyone who's taken the time to go out of their way and make sure that all cares and concerns are noted. Greatly appreciated. We're very, very excited to be going to work finally on one of these projects. We're not sure which one just yet. Right now, we do have, keep in mind, I'd like to express my motives behind this. All of the motives that I have are based on our community's housing assessment needs. We are needing low-income housing. We are needing mobile home subdivisions. We're needing all of these things. And to go forward with anything else but wouldn't make sense to anybody right now. So right now, as we speak and as we are certified, we do have an area structure plan, it's already approved for the duplexes. That'll be low income duplexes. And we'd like to change that in this area to the mobile home subdivision, which you see behind me here right now. We did have some cares and concerns about the property values and the crime things, and I'll let the town speak to that, and I'll let our engineers and our planners, they're on board here too, so they'll be speaking to that as well. I'm kind of one-handed here, guys, and I do apologize. There we go. So what I've done here is I've taken some pictures of the 6A Avenue that we have already in place, and we've not done any more movement on the mobile home subdivisions for 21 years. The mobile parks and the lot rents and everything else, they just keep growing and growing and growing without any place to go. So when I did my assessments and I did my call outs and my research, the need for the mobile home subdivision is far greater in this area than I could imagine. So that's exactly why we proceeded the way we have. You're right, Mayor. It's incredibly costly. There is hundreds of thousands of dollars into this already, and we're not about to stop anytime soon. So like I said, I just wanted to clear up any other rumors too that I got 10 phone calls, I think, last weekend from homeowners in the area that were asking how it is that they could stop the low income duplexes or the low income housing that's already zoned for this area. And I didn't have any answers. I wanted to keep it open and have everybody open mind and a fair conversation that goes on with them. So I would just like to make sure that everybody is fully aware that the Plains Landing, as you can see here, I'm kind of one-handed, like I said, the ponds are far greater. We've developed and designed it so there's zero water filtration down below. There's no runoff water in any of the properties. And you can see that we dealt with this up here is the 55 plus housing right here. And then we've got the daycare center to be announced and devised and revised as they get back to us with their needs. We also have community gardens in here as well, which is a feature that in the cities, they're huge, they're great. I'm looking at putting in a rink there as well, if I can, community driven. And the same thing down here in phase one. Phase one, we also have community gardens as well for the community to get out and walk around the ponds, and 29 lots, 29 individual mobile subdivision or mobile home lots, duplexes or with the garage packages, sorry. We talked about overcrowding. We talked about how maybe more people, less people, and things like that. Like I said, this area structure plan here that's already approved for 29, which is 58 units, low-income units, duplexes, and we're decreasing that already by only 29 lots here as well. When we get further into discussions, traffic, whatever it may be, I would also like to bring to the table a four-way stop here, because we all know how our younger generation likes to race up and down 63rd Street with their vehicles. So that's basically all I have to say right now. Like I said, welcome to Plains Landing. If it's approved, that's awesome. That would be amazing. If not, then we are fully prepared to go with the low-income duplexes that are already approved to go in here. So with that, Council and Your Worship, Mayor Kevin, I think that throughout the course of the evening, where everybody's going to be speaking and saying what it is they want to see here, we are all about development. We've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in this, and we're ready to keep going, whichever way you decide to choose. So with that, I'll turn it over to the public. And I don't think I was quite 5 minutes, so there you go.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for your introduction there. I will turn the floor to Council first. If you have any questions, Councillor Chenard.
Yes, question to the developer. You had mentioned the mobile home lots on the end of 6th Avenue. And one of the question is density. How do your lots compare in size to the lots on the end of 6th Avenue where they have garages?
Our lots are the smaller ones. I'll just go down here to Councillor Chenard. These lots here are individual with no room for the. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. These ones here are the smaller ones for the cost and the budgets, right? People have different budgets, different expectations of whatever, and all these lots here are much bigger than everything comes with 2-car garages if they want. Everything is all to town specs and town lot sizes. They're all different sizes. Some of them you can see are just gorgeous and much bigger than the others. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other questions from council? Hearing none, we will move on. Thank you, Mr. Martin, and we'll call upon you towards the end of this public hearing to give any final comments. And we are going to go to our registered folks that have registered to be a part of this. And we will start with Mr. Byron Holt. So Mr. Holt, you have 5 minutes to give us your presentation.
Thank you, Council. My name is Byron Holt, and I'm a landowner adjacent to the proposed development. I'm opposed to this development. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Steve. Yes, we can. Go ahead, Byron.
Okay. My name is Byron Holt, and I'm a landowner adjacent to the proposed development. I'm opposed to this development. I sent a map to Kyla Sidoric. If you could reference that, I think it would make it faster for my explanation here. I'd like to address the issue of building density and type of residences in the area. So if you look at the map, Section 2E, it includes West Grove, and the land to the west is the proposed development for tonight. From this map, you'll see the north portion of 2E is a mobile home park, Poplar Place. The east side has 7 high-density multifamily residential properties, the most of this sector in Edson. And the south is bordered by 2 mobile home parks as well. The developer wants to add more mobile homes to the west side. I believe this area of Edson already has all of the mobile home parks that are not on deeded land, and the greatest number of high-density multifamily zone properties within the entire town. I believe we do not need more of this type of residential development in our area. I would also like to mention in regards to the availability of lower priced housing in town, I did a quick MLS search and revealed that within town limits currently, priced under $300,000, there were 58 residential properties for sale. This seems more than adequate to me for a town of Edson size. I would also like to note that it's been proposed tonight that there's a choice between 2 developments that are both low income. I would like to note that duplexes do not necessarily need to be low income. Duplexes near the red brick have been built to an excellent standard. And I don't think this statement or this tactic of saying it's low income regardless, we're just choosing between which type, I don't feel that's accurate. And this would conclude my comments, Mayor Zahara.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Holt, and thank you for the documentation that you provided us here this evening. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think around the council table have questions. If not, thank you, Mr. Holt. We'll move on to our next speaker. And reminder, if you are wanting to speak, just use the raise to hand feature and you will be called upon. We will move on to Mr. Jeff Wilbur. Jeff, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Unmute.
Yeah, unmute. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, Jeff. Go right ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Jeff Wilbur, and I am an adjacent landowner, and I disagree with this proposal for a few different reasons. The last speaker actually did say a couple reasons. One, we are actually surrounded by many of these trailer parks that have homes for sale already. A quick search has shown that there are 50 trailers alone that are for sale in this area. And a quick search of all of Edson shows that there are approximately 400 trailers already in Edson at this point in time. Not only in this area, but there are approximately 5 or 6 trailer parks within Edson itself. If anything, we would need more family homes. Duplexes would be more suitable for people to live in as opposed to the trailers. History has shown in many towns, whether it be this town or other towns, that trailer parks do have low income people living there. Does not show that they are bad people. It just shows that they are low income, therefore they do not keep up their property as well, which does lower our property value in our area where we live at this point in time. This is not my opinion. These are facts that have been shown in the history of trailer parks in areas. We do not agree, myself, my wife, Erica Tronston, as well. She would like to speak, but she didn't register, so I don't know if she is allowed to speak in this segment. Can I ask if she's allowed to speak?
No, she is not, because she was not registered, so.
I sent a letter.
Okay, she did send a letter in to you guys, so you may have seen it already, which is fine. But I just want to say once again that I am very, very much opposed to having a trailer park surrounded by trailer parks with my house right in the middle of it all. I do believe that is everything that I have to say. And I thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Zahara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilbur, for your comments and for the letters as well. Councillor Wilkinson, you have a question?
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Wilbur. Could you cite me what reference you used that lower income people don't keep their places neat?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a visual reference as you drive around Edson.
Okay, it's not based on a study. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbur. Any other questions for Mr. Wilbur? Hearing none, thank you, Jeff, for your comments. We're going to move on to our next speaker, and we have Mr. Ralph Ricks. Ralph, you have 5 minutes to give us your thoughts. Go ahead, Ralph.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Ralph Ricks. My wife Sandy and I live in the West Grove area of Edson. We disagree with this project. The town of Edson professes to value a diversity of housing types throughout the town of Edson, but this project continues to concentrate mobile home parks and mobile home lots in the west end of Edson. One need only look at a map of the town of Edson to see that this is true. We are not against mobile home parks and we are not against mobile home lots. We purchased our house with the full knowledge that there were several mobile home parks and a number of mobile home lots in the west end of Edson. The problem with this development is the continued concentration of one type of housing in one area of town. This leads to my second area of concern, and it might be slightly off topic, but I believe it's relevant. The process of informing residents of possible changes to zoning near where they live in town is a real issue. The fact that the area has already been rezoned and I knew nothing about it is, I think, a reason for real concern. We were not aware of the first change until we were made aware of the proposed second change. And that awareness was solely due to one fellow resident of West Grove who follows town council meetings. To be very honest, the process felt like someone is trying to sneak a change past us, and it potentially has a great effect on our lives. Our houses are often our major investment, and this has the potential to affect the value of our houses. When a change of zoning can affect the value of your property, it seems to me that our elected representatives should be acting in the best interest of all residents. Currently, the process, while likely meeting minimum requirements, favors developers and makes the process easier for town administration. We expect that our elected representatives will listen to developers, consider what they have to say, but that they will also seek out opinions from affected landowners. Landowners should not have to keep an eye on our elected representatives to ensure that nothing is being done without their knowledge. That's the end of my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ricks, for your comments and for submitting a letter as well. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Ricks? Hearing none, thank you very much. And we are going to move on to our next speaker, Mr. Peter Taylor. Mr. Taylor, you have 5 minutes starting right now. Go ahead, Peter.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me? We can. Go ahead.
Oh, let's try it again. Hello, can you hear me? Can
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Excellent. Good evening, your worship, members of council. My name is Peter Taylor, and my wife and I, Danielle, are adjacent landowners. Our home backs directly onto 63rd Street. We are strongly opposed to this proposed development here tonight. Before I tell you why, I just want to draw some things to your attention, things that I believe that you already know, but in November of 2019, the developer did hold an open house. And at this open house, about 36 people attended. And within that open house, 15 letters were submitted from local area residents that were against this proposed development. These letters, along with 72 other letters, were submitted to you on June 16th for your first reading of this bylaws. All these letters from area residents, again, opposed to the development. Tonight in your council packages, you were given 116 letters plus 5 emails, all from local area residents opposed to this development. In grand total, that's 208 letters against this proposal. Tonight, you may hear from citizens who are in favor. However, it should be noted that these citizens do not live in the West Grove area. So we as West Grove residents are strongly affected by this development. And again, 208 letters strongly opposed. My reasons for opposing this development, first things first, you've heard tonight, we already live in a densely populated area of mobile homes. There are 5 in a 10-block radius. There are 360 mobile homes located in mobile home areas throughout Edson, 102 located on town-owned lots, and this does not include anywhere in Glenwood. Quick search on MLS and real estate in Kijiji, there's around 50 mobile homes for sale in the Edson area. This is already an oversaturated market of mobile homes. And I think adding more, we believe adding more is certainly not necessary. The next reason we're opposed to this development is due to property value. We believe this will devalue our property. According to the Municipal Government Act, it says, quote, rezoning should be discouraged if it lowers the use, enjoyment, and value of the surrounding area. According to the developer at his open house in November of 2019, he put in his package, quote, manufactured homes of no older than 20 years of age will be eligible for setup. Taking into account research on mobilehomesale.com, mobiles depreciate on average 3 to 3.5% each year. In addition, if any of the mobiles are rented, as many mobile homes can be rented, there's nothing within this plan that says they cannot be. High areas with rental homes will lower the value of homes on average 13.8%, according to Realtor.com. This creates a poor curb appeal for homes, especially next to homes worth anywhere between $400,000 to $600,000. My wife and I made a choice to purchase a home that did not back in onto a mobile home subdivision. We had lots of other opportunities to do so throughout the town. We chose not to. If town council proceeds with this development, you'll be sending a message to other people who live near blank subdivisions that town council may just rezone it at any whim, okay? Already in your council packages, you've probably seen that your assessment officer has said it will not have any effect on the value of our homes. However, I draw caution to what the tax assessor has said is because the tax assessor values the tax assessment, We as residents, my wife and I, for sure, are more worried about our resale value of our home. This is by far our biggest asset that we are concerned about, okay? And there's a difference between tax assessment and resale value. Currently, the land is zoned for duplexes. We believe this was zoned in June of 2017. I believe the council should uphold this decision. We heard from your administration that it is tough to build with basements on this land. However, it's not impossible. Building basements is a challenge throughout Edson, and adding mobile homes is not just the solution to this problem. Lastly, I do want to say everybody has a right to own a home, but it's about location, location, location. There are places that are appropriate and those that are not, and we believe with an oversaturated market already in this area is not appropriate for a mobile home subdivision. So thank you for taking time to listen to our concerns, and I urge members of council to vote against bylaws 2247 and 2248 tonight. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Taylor, you're right at the 5-minute mark. Good timing. Questions from council? Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We will move on to the next speaker. We'll go on to Miss Sarah Mccartney. Go ahead, Miss Mccartney. Are you there, Sarah?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I just had to find my mouse. So good evening, Your Worship and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Sarah Mccartney. I'm a registered professional planner and have been hired by the developer Dwayne Martin to support the area structure plan amendment application and redistricting application. So earlier this evening, Mr. Martin provided an overview of the project. However, I just want to add some pieces as a planner. When we put the ASP amendment together, we reviewed it against your town's policies within your municipal development plan. The MDP policies that identify that this area is, and the area west of this site is subject site is for urban residential development. And we prepared the application as such. Your MDP encourages a mix of housing types, including mobile homes, and supports mobile home development with a character similar to residential subdivisions, which is what the application before you today is. It's my professional opinion that the development does meet the policies and guidelines that you have outlined in your municipal development plan. I'd also like to speak to you about some of the comments and concerns that we have heard raised in the submissions that were sent preceding this hearing, as well as some of them that are brought up here today so far. So the most frequent comments have been in regards to property values and crime, which I believe that you've asked your administration to review. I'll just quickly run through a brief list of some of the other comments that I believe that has been raised to date. So the concerns regarding density increase and increased traffic did appear in a number of these submissions. So just to reiterate, there is already development approved on this site in an existing area structure plan. The proposed development will actually reduce the total number of dwelling units that will be on this site, potentially reducing the density, as well as having little to no impact on any traffic. So the traffic increase, there's likely to be very little resulting from the amendment that is before you. As mentioned, the age of mobile homes and the design of development is something that has come up. The developer is committed to creating a desirable community, and to address these concerns, he's willing to register a restrictive covenant on the land title with development guidelines and criteria, including age restrictions on mobile homes as part of the ongoing development of this community. We've heard some concerns regarding some of the intersection design, and it was not really clear to me, but I'm pretty sure that it was related to the slight offset intersection at 63rd Street and 9th Avenue. We did have to adjust, as part of this proposed amendment, adjust that intersection slightly to provide the lot depth required for the proposed development. The intersection will provide access to two cul-de-sacs, one to the east of 63rd Street and to the west of 63rd Street into the proposed development. Because they are cul-de-sacs and there's no through traffic, there will be a finite development gaining access at this intersection, and we don't believe that there should be a significant concern with regards to that intersection design. Other comments that we received or we reviewed in the packages was the daycare parking and drop off. This is a development permit issue, and at the time of any development going forward for a daycare, there will be the expectation that the development does meet any parking and drop off requirements as per the land use bylaw. Green space and trail development was another item that we noted in the package. The developer has worked with the town to determine a plan for trails and green spaces, and through those discussions, it was determined that as this development moves forward, cash in lieu of land will be provided at this location to allow the town to take a larger contiguous parcel of land for future trail and park development within the Edson community. We felt that that was more appropriate than trying to put a small sliver of parkland on this site. Servicing and stormwater runoff has been addressed, but just to reiterate, as part of this package, we have submitted an engineering servicing brief. We will be meeting the servicing and stormwater pond requirements of the town, and it will be designed and built to meet the needs of this community as well as the town's servicing requirements. So I just wanted to note that the developer has tried to align this project with the town's visions, policies, as well as meet a community need that he sees.
Cut you off. You are at your 5-minute mark. Thank you very much for your presentation. We will hand things over to council. If you have any questions, Councillor Chenard, go right ahead.
Yes. In your development, one of the things I was concerned about is where you considered the age, and I was very alarmed when you said up to 20 years old. So in my way of thinking, a new development, I would not want to see aging stuff. With the price of mobile homes today, what kind of restriction are you thinking? Instead of 20, what was your idea of thinking the age limit of the mobile home?
So what I have discussed with Dwayne Martin to date was that the restrictive covenant would be any homes that are being moved onto the site would be a maximum of 20 years old. If that is a concern, I'm sure we could still discuss that with Dwayne, because that would be a restrictive covenant put on the title and would come as part of the subdivision application.
Great, thank you, Councillor Chenard. Thank you, Ms. McCartney. Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. McCartney, for your presentation here this evening and taking the time. We're going to move on to our next speaker, Anna Jamaica. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes to provide your comments.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Hi there. Yes, we can.
Okay, so my name is Dana Jamaica, and I'm an adjacent landowner. I'm strongly opposed to this proposal. I agree with everything that, in particular, Byron Holt, Peter Taylor, and really the others have already said, so I don't want to waste your time restating those points. But overall, I really value my home and the neighborhood that we live in, and I do not want the value of either to go down, as it most certainly will if this development happens. Thank you for your time and your consideration, and I strongly urge you to vote against this proposal.
All right, thank you, Dana, for your concise comments. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to our next speaker, Mr. Kelly Head. Go ahead, Mr. Head. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, same as the last speaker, I'll keep mine fairly short because other than that, I'm going to be repeating a lot of what's already been said. I'm an adjacent landowner. My wife and I own a home adjacent to the proposed property. We are both strongly opposed to this development. Sorry, I don't have a prepared statement like a lot of other presenters have, but when we moved to town 5 years ago, we very carefully chose the location where we purchased, and it came down to this house and one in Skyview. The one in Skyview was directly adjacent to Poplar Place, and for that reason, specifically, we chose to purchase the home that we did. To find out now that we may be adjacent to a trailer park again is more than disappointing. It will affect our property value. I don't care what the assessor says. It's a fact. You know, someone already mentioned it, that the zoning change felt a little greasy the last time it changed from single family dwellings to multiple family dwellings. And to have this proposal come through in the middle of summer when people are distracted and on vacation. Again, feels a little underhanded. Sarah just mentioned that that there would be no traffic concerns with the addition of several homes directly across the street. I have a hard time understanding that. They're not going to get around on hoverboards, so how she suspects that there will be no impact on traffic is alarming to me, to say the least. The parks and the daycare that they're speaking of are red herrings. There's no need for another daycare in this town. The daycares that are here aren't surviving. Boys and Girls Club just closed down. The other ones are not at capacity. So it's a red herring that meant to be a cherry on top to try and woo people over. Same as the parks. This proposed property is right on the Edson Parks system, or the Parks trail system. The need for parks in this area is non-existent. I would ask council that at the end of this process that you do a tally of the number of people that are in favor of this development. I would ask you to check to see how many of them live in adjacent properties, how many of them are even land or property owners in Edson, and how many are simply Facebook friends of the developer. We have skin in the game, the people in the adjacent properties. We have made our investments, and the people that you find in favor, I will guess, do not own property adjacent to this development. As others have already stated, the density issue on this side of town is a non-issue. Perhaps Hillendale would be a good spot for a trailer park. Every other neighborhood has one, so maybe Hillendale should be next rather than our subdivision. If basements are an issue, they're saying that they can't build anything other than trailer lots because they can't put in basements. There's been many homes built on slabs. So the basement issue is a non-starter. And then regarding the restrictive covenants that Sarah spoke to, and someone on council may be able to correct me on this, but my understanding is that restrictive covenants are managed by the developer, that the bylaw enforcement is toothless with restrictive covenants, and they can be changed at any time at the whim of the developer. Anyhow, that's pretty much where we stand on it. I guess that you will not find anyone in favor of this that owns property in the near vicinity. Thank you for your time and consideration. I strongly urge you to vote against this proposal.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Head, for your comments and for your letters as well. Council, do you have any questions that you'd like to pose? Hearing none, we will move on to our next speaker. Thank you, Kelly. We'll move on to Ms. Leah Holtz. Go ahead, Ms. Holtz. You have 5 minutes to state your opinion.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My name is Leah Holt. I am a local business owner and a resident of West Grove, and I am against this bylaw. Starting a development with mobile homes that could possibly already be 20 years old really ages the neighborhood from the get-go. We know mobile homes depreciate in value much quicker than a regular home because of their construction. I also agree we have a high density of trailer parks in our area, and I would like to see mobile parks spread throughout the Edson area, not just concentrated on the west end. I am aware that this meeting is for the rezoning of the land, but my concern is about traffic through West Grove if the developer plans to put a daycare in this residential area. The three-way stop at the top of 63rd Street by Beaupre will become very congested during the morning and afternoon commutes between daycare and West Haven School. As an alternative, parents will be tempted to drive through West Grove to save time as they travel between the daycare and the school. We have many young families that live in the area, and so this is a huge concern with children playing outside. Another concern I have is with the daycare being on a dead-end street with insufficient parking for staff, as well as not enough parking space to drop children off. Also, why do we need a commercial building in a residential area when many of our commercial spaces around town are sitting empty and they are already properly zoned? The developer has also proposed a community garden and another ice rink in his proposal video posted online. Does the town of Edson really want the responsibility of this upkeep? I know residents of West Grove and West Haven have stepped up to look after the West Haven skating rink since it's often forgotten already by the town. In conclusion, I, as you can see, am against this proposal, and I strongly urge council and your worship to vote against the Plains Landing proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Holt, for taking the time this evening to provide your comments. Council, do you have any questions? Hearing none, we will move on to our next speaker. Just a reminder, if you are registered and you have not spoken but would like to, please use the raise to hand feature so you can be recognized. Otherwise, you will not be called upon. We are going to move on to our next speaker, Ms. Chantal Baylor. Go ahead, Ms. Baylor. You have 5 minutes to make your comments. Yeah, we can hear you just barely though.
Might be on mine.
There we go. That's better.
Oh, okay. Much better. Okay. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My name is Chantal Baylor, and I oppose the development in our area. I have watched the videos for Plains Landing Phase 1 and 2. There were concerns that I have to mine. The development that there would be a committee to govern the development. Does this indicate that the development would be strata titled lots and the residents would have to pay fees for maintenance and management over and above the cost of their lots? If it's not a strata, is the town financially prepared to take on the additional burden of the maintenance of the community gardens and the outdoor rink? My next thought was the developer said there'll be a daycare in Phase 2. Does this then indicate that he will be seeking to have this area rezoned to commercial? And if that happens, will there be, if the daycare doesn't go in, would that commercial land then be allowed to have a convenience store or a gas bar or a liquor store able to move into the residential development? I am in favor of the development of this parcel land. I do not believe a mobile home development is the best use of this land, as there are already vacant lots within our town that are set up for manufactured homes. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening to my concerns. And this concludes my comments.
Thank you, Chantal, for your comments. Council, you have questions? Hearing none, we will move on to the next speaker. We're going to go to Mr. Tony Young. Go ahead, Mr. Young. You have 5 minutes to make your comments.
Hello, my name is Tony Young. I own a house adjacent to the proposed development. I'm opposed to the development as there are already 4 trailer parks within 1 kilometer of the proposed development. There's over 100 lots to the north in Poplar Place and over 150 lots to the south in Creekside and Sunset. I did not purchase a residence in this subdivision to be surrounded on 3 sides by a trailer park. Thanks for your time.
For your concise comments. And then we will move on to our next speaker. We are going to go to Kim Konchikowski. Go ahead, Ms. Konchikowski. Sorry for mispronouncing your name.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is Kim. I'm an adjacent landowner, and my wife and I oppose this development as we are worried about our property value, as this is a huge part of our retirement plan. I feel the need to protect it. There are too many mobile home developments in this area. And I feel it's going to decrease my property value. I sure hope this is working. I'm technologically challenged and had a difficult time joining, and I'm worried about how many people it may exclude from joining this meeting. Also, from my doorstep, I will be able to see this new development, and it's just not going to look good. I'm sorry. I guess enough said. Thanks. Did we get that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate you providing those to us here this evening. Council, you have any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to our next speaker. Once again, if you would like to speak, be sure to use the raise the hand feature on the program in order to speak, and we will call upon you. We will go on to Mr. Frank Steele. Go ahead, Mr. Steele. Mr. Steele, are you there?
Hello? Hello?
We hear you. We got you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm opposed to the development. I don't really have much to add. There's a lot of speakers before me that's opposed, that provided a lot of feedback. And like I said, I'm not really impressed with the carrots that are given for this development. I think a lot of those carrots are bogus, and that I would prefer, if there's going to be any development, to go back to the duplex. You can have duplexes on a slab, and you can have a 2-story duplex. I mean, it's a better structure than a trailer park with no basement anyway. So basements are a moot point in this area. And I prefer a built structure from the ground up. And there's also a lot of lots, even in Hillendale, where you can have gorgeous duplexes in there as well for low-income development. So I'm opposed to this, and I'm not going to drag on to the other comments. A lot of my neighbors had good feedback on that, and that's my opinion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Steele, for your comments here this evening. Council, you have any questions? Hearing none, we're going to move on to our next speaker. If you are having an issue not knowing where the raise to hand feature is, the information was provided to you from administration when you registered, but just to go through that again, it is located on the left-hand corner of the screen if you are on the mobile version, and on the bottom of the screen if you are on the desktop version, in the middle of the screen at the bottom. So be sure to use that feature if you would like to speak and you have not spoken previously. We are going to move on to our next speaker, Ms. Lorraine Beaupre. Ms. Beaupre, you have 5 minutes to give us your thoughts. I think you're muted there, Lorraine.
Unmuted. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Zahara and councillors. My name is Doreen Beaupre. I am speaking on behalf of the property at 1208 63rd Street and my daughter and son-in-law's property straight across the street on 63rd. I'm assuming that all councillors have read all the letters submitted both for and against this development. So I'm not going to recount my objections to this proposed development, as I feel I have been muzzled and my time is limited. First of all, why has this proposal development even come to this point of consideration when, number one, stakeholders already had a face-to-face meeting before Christmas and wrote letters for and against at that time? That these letters were going to town councillors, we were told. So why are we doing this again? Number two, because this proposed development is of some significance, why were stakeholders not provided with following information as part of this so-called public hearing? What is the financial viability of the developer? And does he or she have any backers? And who are they? And what would their financial viability be? What are the results and impact of the environmental study? One, on the creek, on the sewer capacity or lack thereof, on the roads, on the valuation of surrounding properties, on the population impact of the area, as there would be significant increase in people, cars, trucks, and the general use of amenities. Number 6, what kind of deposit and time would be provided by the developer to make sure that all regulations are met and did not fall back onto the general property taxes? What are the offsite levels, levies, and what has been assumed by the developer for the improvement of 63rd Street? We personally paid $48,000 for that pavement in front of our place. And I know that our daughter has a significant increase on their tax for the improvement of 63rd. So how much of this improvement is going to be assumed by the developer? One argument that has been put forward to me by a counselor is that the developer has as much right to be considered as the area property owners. This is a false argument because our investments in this area has already been made and continues to be made. His has not, and there are no reasons to believe it would be with the information provided. And please don't say, go to the website. This is a promotion, not a factual study. Lastly, if the town councilors want more mobile homes so that there are more property taxes collected, they should use an already developed area in the Hillendale subdivision, which has been paid for by the taxpayer. That's and those are my concluding remarks. And as you can see, I am very opposed to this development. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beaupre, for your comments. Council, do you have any questions for Thoreen? Thank you very much, Thoreen, for your comments. We are going to move on to our next speaker. A reminder, if you've already spoken, you will not be called upon again. And if you haven't spoken, use that raise to hand feature and you will be given the opportunity to speak. We are going to move on to Mr. Dean Simmons. Mr. Simmons, please go ahead. You have 5 minutes to make your comments.
Hello. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I just want to reiterate what my neighbors have already said, that I'm very concerned about my property value. I should say market value. We're also concerned with another trailer court. We believe that, Hillendale's been brought up. Why not there, So I'm not going to go into everything that's already been said, but I strongly disagree. And thanks for your time.
From council, do you have any questions for Mr. Simmons? No, thank you. Once again, if you have spoken already, you won't be called upon. Just hang on 1 second. If you have not spoken yet, please use the raise to hand feature and you will be called upon. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to note for you, Mr. Chair, that there are 2 participants, both registered under the name of Chantal Baylor. So I do think there is a second individual who may be registered. So you can just refer to your list there. But I just didn't want that to be lost in translation there. It may not be the name on the list. It may be a partner.
Okay. All right, sounds good. We will go back to Chantal Baylor. Who do we have on the line this time? Still muted. Need to unmute.
There we go. There we go.
Go ahead. Who is this?
Okay, are you there?
Good evening, Council. My name is Rod Baylor, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for hearing me.
The first question I have, or I guess thought process that I have, is regarding the offset intersection as was displayed on the video at 12th Ave. Now, 12th Ave is right on 63rd Street, and the current intersection there is not one that we would want for future planning. They were talking about the one down at 9th, but the one at 12th is going to be very busy because that is the phase 2 entrance where the daycare would be located. A second item of concern that nobody seems to have brought up yet is the proximity of the mobile home community to the forested area to the west. No one wants a repeat of either Slave Lake or Fort McMurray. So who would be responsible for fire guarding the west end of Edson? Would it be the developer, the town, taxpayers, or the landowner of that adjacent land to the west? And is the town infrastructure sufficient to handle the influx of 130 to 170 additional residents? This is with regards to sewer, water, as well as fire protection. There are 4 mobile home developments, 9 apartments, and 1 condo development, all west of 55th Street, which is what Tags and Vanier are on. And that gives the west end of Edson the highest population density of anywhere in town. Why would we want to add additional load to the current infrastructure? Just doesn't, it kind of baffles me, I guess. And 63rd Street's a busy thoroughfare for residents of both the town and the county. And I can only wonder at what kind of upgrades would be required to safely deal with the additional traffic while not adding additional tax burden to the landowners who have frontage on 63rd Street. I do see a need for development of the parcel of land west of 63rd Street. However, the current plan is short on safety and addressing the current residents' concerns. I'd like to thank you for your time, and that concludes my remarks.
Very much, Rod, for your comments here this evening and for the letters as well. Council, any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to our next speaker, Mrs. Danielle Taylor. You have 5 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. I'm going to keep this short and sweet since a lot of other people have already spoken to the same points, but I am an adjacent landowner and I am against this development. My husband and I purchased this home in West Grove a year ago, and we've done a lot of renovations to the property. We specifically purchased this home because it did not back onto a mobile home area. We had a lot of other options in town, but we wanted a home that didn't have that in the backyard. And we would be really disappointed if this motion were to be passed and a mobile home park were to be developed behind us. So once again, I'm strongly against this, both of these motions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Taylor. Council, do you have any questions? Hearing none, thank you once again, Danielle, for your comments. We have nobody else with the raise to hand feature up. I will give you a few more seconds here. If you do want to speak and you haven't spoken already, to use that raise to hand feature, and we certainly will give you the opportunity to speak. Once again, on behalf of council, I do want to thank each and every individual that submitted comments, written letters, made phone calls, and joined in this public hearing process. Really important as we make the decisions later on this evening as we consider second and third reading of this development. As we have no more public speakers, we are going to give the developer 2 minutes to make any final closing comments before we close the public hearing. Mr. Martin, feel free to go ahead. We will give you 2 minutes to make any closing comments or anything you want to address that was said during the public hearing.
Mayor Kevin, thank you for your time. Councillor Sames, thank you guys. I know this is a tough decision, and I know that everybody in that area is all saying the same thing, not in my backyard. But those mobile home parks have been there for years. They were there probably before they even bought their homes. Like, I don't know for sure, but this is not a mobile home park. These are individual homeowner lots where a lot of these families, and I'm getting calls every day for lots, a lot of these families have been here for years and their investment went into a newer modular home and can't move it anywhere because there's zero vacancy here in town. We did hear a couple of people say there was 2 lots or a couple lots or whatever's available. This entire phase 1 is pretty much spoken for already. The need is overwhelming. The development, absolutely, it's going to be there. When we talk about the duplexes, slab on grade, or whatever it is that we choose to put in there, they're going to be rental units, low income rental units. This economy will not support anything that is going to be up for sale. It's just not going to happen. Not for the next 3 to 5 years anyways, until we get that pipeline built and we get our reality check. We need to get that pipeline built. And we need to get our resources back into the lines and going west and going east. Until then, we need to grow. We want to keep these families here instead of selling out and moving out. There is a lot of mobile homes for sale in this town. Why? Because they're on rented lots. That's why. And people are sick and tired of paying astronomical amounts of money for lot rent. It's plain and simple. Enough is enough. And we have 0 vacancy. So we need to make this go ahead, and we need to make this move. And for the growth of Edson and to keep these families here. What are they going to do? I mean, what are we going to do? I am not just I'm one of those people that have a mobile home on a rented lot, and I can't take it anymore. It's driving me nuts, along with about 50 or 60 other families. We enough. We want to get this developed, and we want to get this up and going.
We have to cut you off. Sorry about that, Mr. Martin. Thank you very much for your presentation and putting this forward for council's consideration. With that, once again, thank you to everybody for their comments, both for and against, and that will conclude the public hearing process. Once again, no decisions are made during the public hearing. It's going to be coming up right after during our regular council agenda. You can watch online at edson.ca/live and on the town's YouTube channel. You can get the links on our Facebook page and on the Town of Edson website, edson.ca. We kindly ask anybody that had logged in to disconnect if they so wish. So with that, we have no delegations this evening. We are going to move on to reading of bylaws. Can I get a motion, please, that council give second reading to bylaw number 2247, amending Town of Edson Land Use Bylaw number 2070 by replacing the Anderson Area Structure Plan with the Plains Landing Area Structure Plan, affecting the lands as noted in the agenda package. Somebody want to make that motion so we can get it on the floor? Councillor Curry will make that motion. And we do have Miss Bridget Lemieux, who is our acting, I don't even know what her title is.
Planning manager.
Acting planning manager. Great to have you back here. You said you weren't going to come back, but here you are. And Mandy Chan, who's our intern as well. Thank you very much to give a presentation over what the area structure plan changes are.
Good evening, Mayor Zahara, members of council. I am as surprised as you are to be back here. This is what happens during COVID, right? I felt so isolated that I just missed, all of you, and I thought, so when I could receive a call, would I consider an interim position? I was so happy to be able to do it. I did not realize that my first act in front of council would be this land use bylaw amendment, but here we go.
Surprise!
Surprise, yeah. So we're going to concentrate our comments on bylaw. Bylaw 2247, which is the replacement of the Anderson ASP with the Plains Landing ASP. I just decided to put up on the screen the area. I know we have spoken a tremendous amount this evening about where this proposed area structure plan is being planned for and some of the surrounding lands. The most notable change from the Anderson area structure plan to the Plains Landing area structure plan is the land use. So the Anderson area structure plan, it had proposed an R2 and R1C land use. R2 is duplex, R1C is single family homes on smaller lots. The Plains Landing Area Structure Plan is proposing a mobile home subdivision. These are titled lots that are purchased and mobile homes are placed on it. I'm just going to back up a little bit before we show you our correlation of our data. I wanted to address two items, and the items that were brought forward at the June 16th council meeting. And council requested administration to look at, is there a way we can find out if assessment values or market values will be affected? So Mandy and I, we approached our assessor, Aaron Stidlick, and we gave him the scenario as to what was happening, and we asked for his professional opinion. And I included in your agenda package a verbatim quote from Mr. Stidlick. And I'll just read a little part of it. It is my opinion the rezoning of the subject property should not adversely affect market value for neighboring communities of property, given that the development proceeds forward in the manner of my understanding. And he does speak also to a restrictive covenant that could be placed on the lands. The second item that council requested information were crime stats. There seemed to be the perception that there would be increased crime in neighborhoods that contain mobile home subdivisions. Mandy and I met with Staff Sergeant Galal on June the 30th and Corey Lear, who's the municipal manager, and they informed us that crime stats in this community, they are not by neighborhood. They are for the community as a whole. So therefore, it would not be possible for us to be able to make that correlation. The data is just not there. Staff Sergeant Galal did want me to share that should council, want a presentation on overall crime stats, he'd certainly be pleased to do so. So we'll talk about the written submissions that we've received and how we've collected that data.
So for the written submissions, we actually because I noticed that there are actually duplicates on also like from the package of letters that I received and the email responses. So from there, excluding the duplications, I have a total of 122. And then also actually at the end of today, I also received another one. So it's 123. And then it will be 4 agree and then 119 disagree for that. So that will be for the excluding duplications, and I also did a stat for per household. So I only count for every household. Sometimes there's submission for more than one letters responding, so I would just count as one for that. And except for there's property that there's like renters, so I count the owner submission and also the renter submission. So in that I have a total of 70, and then 2 agree and 68 disagree. And then regarding on the mobile home statistics, so I did a little bit of research on comparison between what Edson has and then what Hinton and Whitecourt. So you can see that's the number in Hinton and Whitecourt, it's a little bit higher than Edson, but that also correlates with the population because they do have greater populations than Edson. So that's kind of just a roughly call on that. And then all these data are just approximate data, approximate numbers. So it's not like for sure a solid whole number.
I actually, it was not our intent to reiterate anything that was already presented at first reading, nor is it our intent to reiterate what was already said tonight. So we are open for questions from council.
All right, thank you very much for your work on this and providing the information council requested. I'll open the floor to questions. Councillor Chenard, go ahead.
I'm glad to see you back, and you
through the chair, please.
Oh, through the chair to, what is your title, Bridget?
Interim planning.
Interim planning. I'm glad to see you back. My question was the 119 against, they'd all be in that neighborhood or adjacent property owners, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, because that was my main concern.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? Councillor Wilkinson and then Councillor Curry.
Through the chair, I'd like to thank both of you very much for looking into what the assessment value was in the RCMP report. When we asked that at last council meeting, I really appreciate the work you've gone in to find the data for us. Thank you.
All right,
If
thank
I
you,
can have a
Councillor
second
Curry.
question.
Through the chair, Engine, just clarity on the 2-4, are they in the same area? Or are they homeowners in the community in the West Grove area?
Through the chairs.
Go ahead.
Council. It will be within the area district, we did check.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? Councillor Sorensen, go ahead.
Through the chair to administration, glad to have you back, Bridget. The developer is proposing some common areas, I would call the daycare and community gardens areas. Who would own those lands and how would they be maintained in this proposal?
Through the chair to Councillor Sorensen. It is unclear as to who would own those lands. So the daycare definitely would be on a piece of property that would be zoned appropriately for the that commercial use. We haven't seen those details because that's in phase 2. And the rezoning, which is addressed in bylaw 2248, is for the south half. So unfortunately, I don't think I have the answers for you.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
To add to that, public use spaces like parks or public utility lots are often dealt with at the time of subdivision as well. And so that is generally that would come later in the stage. It really depends on the size of the development and the availability of adjacent recreational or park spaces as to whether or not the administration would recommend for any given development to produce or provide more of those spaces. That would then become the responsibility of the town to support and maintain. However, private park spaces are possible or can sometimes be included in developments as well. I would just suggest that that's typically dealt with at a later stage in the process, subdivision and beyond.
Can I have a follow-up?
One follow-up?
Yeah, through the chair to administration. I'm just wondering, process-wise, is it council's responsibility to ask for revisions to an area plan like this at this stage, if they don't agree with a commercial lot for daycare or a community garden in that area? Or should you approve the plan as proposed and then oppose it later at zoning or development or subdivision?
Through the chair to Councillor Sorensen, I think that it would be appropriate to approve the plan as presented, and at the time of subdivision, it would be the time that we could deal with the daycare, the commercial lots.
I would certainly, I think I would add to that I think it's appropriate to consider that at both of those stages. An area structure plan is specifically focused on use. Land use is the major consideration, as well as servicing and capacity and those types of things. And so if a certain area structure plan was to present land uses that you felt uncomfortable with as a council member, that could be grounds for you to consider how you may either support or not support an area structure plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? Councillor Schnarr, go ahead.
Okay, through the chair, just to follow up at where they mentioned in 2017, when we put in the Anderson subdivision, I don't recall getting this kind of respond against. So I don't know if we have any information follow-up. So obviously the people in this neighborhood are against what it's being changed to, but I don't remember, because they argued the point about high density and we approved it to be mobile homes, or sorry, duplexes. And I don't recall if we had this many people spoke against when we changed it to that original state from the Anderson subdivision.
Through the chair to Councillor Schnarr. Unfortunately, I was not involved in the 2017 rezonings. It would require some research on our part, but we can certainly do it.
Okay, thank you.
I think we can comfortably say that there was certainly not this.
I don't recall.
This level of public engagement. I would just like to comment that these same types of processes were used for public notification, and that any and all landowners would have been engaged as they would for any land use change. And so certainly administration is very comfortable that appropriate process was followed and notification, et cetera, and that all of those landowners would have at that time had the opportunity to comment or express concerns and chose not to. There is a shared, I think, responsibility, certainly administratively, we take it very seriously that it is our responsibility to be as open and transparent, in particular with processes of this nature. But it is incumbent on any property owner to be aware and connected to those going-ons and engage those processes appropriately.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Go ahead, Mr. Sorensen, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you. I have a statement to council. I opposed these bylaws before. I'm not opposing these bylaws for reasons of safety or property values or economic demand. I oppose these bylaws at first reading, and I continue to oppose these bylaws purely on the overwhelming negative public response. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
I have something I'd like to add too. Prior to casting my vote, I'd like to give some explanation of my reasoning. The vote we have before us regards changing land use bylaws and the area structure plan, essentially whether we have a new development of a trailer court with ownership of individual lots. We have heard from many members of the public, and I'd like to thank them for their input, and we are elected to represent them. There are two sides to everything, and on one side, the developer wants to provide housing for mobile home dwellers on their own purchased land. On the other side, mostly consisting of homeowners in the near vicinity, they're worried about their purchase price of their homes going down. They're concerned about increased traffic in the area and an increase in crime. Regarding the issue of traffic, I believe any development would result in more traffic. This is a major route, just as Main Street is and 48th Street in front of my own residence. Some of the homeowners have already contributed to further traffic hurdles in these areas by conducting businesses from their personal residences. And I find no statistics that show evidence of more crime or drug addiction in relation to mobile homeowners. Another concern is the density of mobile home parks in the area. I agree that there are many. None of them offer land purchases, and the development of 6th Avenue near the new hospital does offer ownership, and this mobile home does back onto Hillendale. My major concern is that in this development plan, the mobile homes are far too congested. On the south side of the plan, there's no room left for garages. This location is not conducive to having owners walk to the downtown area, so I imagine the owners will have a car or two, and I can only imagine the huge problems that would come related to the parking. Another concern I have is the age of the homes to be allowed in. I feel a 20-year-old mobile home will offer nothing to enhance the area. If this proposal is turned down, where do people start? All of us had to start in a home of much lesser value, and I feel the town must work with any developers and try to seek a solution to find an area for either a mobile home lot owned area or a tiny home development. And so thank you for listening to my thoughts as I mulled over the input that we received, and I will not be supporting this.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Chouinard.
I have great ideas. I agree with both you through the chair with the councillors. I also will not be supporting this strictly for the reason is we've heard from the property owners. They are against it and all procedures of previous years. So I will not support it. I agree with the comments of the other two councillors for the same reasonings. What I'd also say is I also agree there is a demand for this, and there's been a lot of strong arguments against it. I haven't seen a lot of strong arguments for it. So I guess I have to agree with them, not in this location, but yes, in our town, but just not there.
Councillor Bevan and then Councillor Curry.
The chair, a comment I have is a couple of them here. Like I know our developer said that most of them were spoken for already. People want to move in. I think, you know, if say there's 60 lots here, 50 people would have came forward and said, yes, I want it, I'm going to put a down payment down today, it may change the perception of, you know, maybe going forward here or whatever that. I appreciate everybody that did phone, send letters, comments to me and everything else, stalked me around town and that. I wasn't sure how I was going to vote here. I wanted to listen to everybody. That's why I did vote for it to go to first reading, so everybody would get a chance to have their say, and I appreciate it all. I probably will not support this right now myself, and that's the way it is. I think it'd go back to the same way, so, it's just a comment.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Curry.
Through the chair, just same statement. I agree with what I've heard around the table. I also will not be supporting due to the overwhelming public response opposing this. And once again, thank you to the public that did. I know it was frustrating doing the open house and then having to do this again, but I think it was really important that we were able to hear from both sides of the stories and everyone had that chance. So thank you for that effort. And I do agree, I think that there might be a demand, but I think if the demand was as overwhelming as it's been suggested, then we would have seen different numbers on those for this. So unfortunately, I don't think that that demand was shown. And I think it was very clearly and loudly known to the public, so they had a chance. So I will be respecting what the public has said to us, that they would not like this to be rezoned.
Councillor Byron.
Through the chair to council, I also been listening to the residents and the comments for and against, as well as the submissions that we received a month or two ago and as well tonight and over the live stream. And I won't be supporting this bylaw as well due to many of the comments that you guys have mentioned, as well as Councillor Sorensen mentioned, there are some things I also don't, the reasons that why I'm not supporting it are there. I don't particularly feel that the crime or safety is impacted, and same with the traffic. We currently already have an approved duplex there, and I agree with that. And I wasn't on council when that passed through, but I do remember hearing about that, and I was surprised that there wasn't a lot of negative public feedback with that. And being on council now and hearing the negative feedback that we've heard tonight with the proposed mobile home subdivision, I feel that that's very loud and clearly heard from my perspective that it is very undesirable. So I will be listening to the submissions that we've heard tonight and voting against it.
All right, thank you. That leaves me to speak, and as chair, I get to speak last and give my thoughts last after I get to hear everybody else. There's a few things I want to mention here tonight from my own personal experience and life. The development that is proposed by Mr. Martin, I think is really important. These are more affordable homes that could be purchased. My mom, who was a single parent, would not have been able to purchase her own home if it wasn't for a mobile home such as the one that is being suggested here today. But there are some stark differences. It was a new mobile home park, and it was the only mobile home park in the community. But without that housing option, we would have been stuck living in an apartment. And as somebody who grew up in a mobile home park for many of my years, I am disappointed by some of the comments suggesting that criminals live in mobile home parks. There are many outstanding individuals that live in trailer parks. There are criminals that live in $500,000 homes, $5,000 homes, and on the streets, just like there is good people. So to brush everybody with the same brush or paint everybody with the same brush, I think is rather unfortunate, and it's not a good argument to make in order to make your point. I do agree with the comments of individuals in that neighborhood. As somebody who lives in West Haven, there is an overabundance of mobile homes in that area of town. And for that reason alone, I cannot support this development. And I cannot understand that if there is such huge demand, as has been suggested, how tonight we did not have one of those individuals step up and to make a comment in favor. We did get a couple letters and submissions, but with the amount of lots that are being proposed there and the suggestion that they're almost sold out, there certainly should be more people stepping forward in favor. I am not seeing that. And as such, it makes it really hard for us to support this. Another comment was made during the public hearing that, well, we're trying to sneak this through and that we're not informing residents enough about this sort of stuff. Residents have a responsibility as well. This has been well communicated, well advertised, and people need to take ownership of their community. It is not up to town council administration to start knocking on doors to inform everybody of every little thing or every major thing that's going on. People do need to pay attention to what is happening And that information is readily available. I'm very proud of council and this administration for the work that we have done in order to maintain transparency on issues such as this. Having said all that, I do think affordable housing is needed in our community. A range of housing options are needed. I think we have a lot of mobile homes. Most of those are in rental lots, but things such as tiny homes, which this council has spoken about many times, and looking at options for things such as that. We also have a number of homes on the market currently that are on the low end of the threshold, which hopefully will help young families that are starting out. So with all that said, I do appreciate the developers' persistence on this, but there is a reason why we had the open house, or suggested the open house, is to not go through this process if there wasn't that support, and there was not that support at the open house, and we see that continuing on here through the public hearing. And as such, it's our I think our responsibility to vote against this, and I'll be joining the rest of council in doing so. So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion defeated unanimously, which means there is no third reading. We do have another bylaw that is related to the first one we just defeated. It would make no sense to approve that one, but just a matter of process. So we have it on the record. Can I get a motion, please, that we give second reading to bylaw number 2248, amending the Town of Edson land use bylaw. Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. I think we've spoken about this as well. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion defeated. So if I know there's a lot of people that are interested in this may not understand what just happened. The proposal that was made has been turned down by council and will not be proceeding. So we will now move on to first reading to bylaw number 2246, known as the non-residential property taxation incentive program bylaw. Councillor Bevan will make that motion. And we have our General Manager of Corporate Services here, Ms. Sarah Bittner, to talk about this bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I think we've brought this back a number of times to committee and had discussions on it. So tonight we're just presenting the bylaw for the three readings that were discussed at the committee last week to get this bylaw through so that the non-residential developments can take advantage of the tax incentive program.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns from council? Councillor Bevan?
Just a comment. I know we went through this here, and I said before that I'm glad we're going to do all three readings tonight in this. We looked at this not only for what's going on in the West End here, but for any new businesses that want to come into town. They can look at this and say, you know, that open, they'll say our town is open for business. We'd love to have more business in town, wherever it may be. So I think it's a good thing. We did go over quite a few times and made 3 or 4 different recommendations, and we've ended up with this. So I believe it is a good fit for us.
All right. Any other further comments, questions, or concerns? I'll just say that I'm very excited about this. I think it will certainly help spur some interest in development for our non-residential tax base, and this is in relation to a bill that the provincial government passed last spring, encouraging municipalities to encourage business, and I'm glad that we are one of the few rural municipalities that are actually doing this, and hopefully we will see in 4 or 5 years the results of this. We've actually already seen the results of this with the development going on the West End, so I'm very happy to support that. And with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council give second reading to bylaw number 2246? Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, for placement of third reading? Councillor Curry will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? All those in favor? Motion carried. And can I get a motion for third reading to bylaw number 2246, known as the non-residential property taxation incentive bylaw? Councillor Chouinard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, we're going to go to reports from administration. Can I get a motion, please, that council appoint Bridget Lemieux as development officer for the town of Edson in accordance with section 9 of land use bylaw number 2070. Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. And we have CO Derricott here. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but go ahead, CO Derricott.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I'll be very brief here. No one is happier than I to welcome Bridget back to our administrative team, even if it is just for a short time. She's already shown her value as we anticipated she would. This is just a matter of ensuring she has the appropriate legislative authority to carry out her responsibilities overseeing the planning department.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Bevan?
Yeah, just a comment in here. Welcome back, Bridget. I'd like you to stay till the end of the year here. At least I don't think we're in any hurry. We got somebody who can fill a position very well. I don't think we want to jump into something that we regret. So I think I would like to see her stay till the end of the year here.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Through administration, the only question I have is, do we have to repeal the previous appointment, or is that automatically done based on the processes that have occurred?
Thank you. That is a natural process that takes place and does not require resolution.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. You've got all the power now, Bridget. Can I get a motion, please? The council direct administration to proceed in jointly recruiting for the CFWY for the shared position of an economic development business liaison position, with the town's contribution to the salary for such position being $35,000 or 50% to be funded from the COVID-19 reserve. Councillor Byron will make that motion, and just for a point of clarification, CFWY means Community Futures West Yellowhead. CO Derricott, do you just want to explain what this position is for anybody that may be watching and not aware of what we're doing?
Yes, thank you. We were approached by our partners with Community Futures, who we worked with many years, supporting the business community, in particular small and local businesses, through a number of initiatives. In this case, Community Futures came into some additional funding to assist with the response to the economic impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. They approached us in hopes that as partners we could leverage that into a larger impact in the community. Council has supported that in principle at some previous conversations in the at committee meetings. And I should note that there has been some interviews. In fact, I believe an offer has been made to an individual. And so hopefully council will formalize that as that commitment has already been extended informally. But we very much look forward to this individual who will work under Community Futures, but closely and directly with the business community here in Edson. Initially focused on supporting businesses dealing with the impacts, which are various and significant from the pandemic that we're dealing with, but also in development of other initiatives and other opportunities to build resiliency into our business community.
All right, thank you, Sierra Derricott. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Bevan?
I'd like to say to the chair, I'd like to say thank you to Community Futures for reaching out to the town and the town working with them. I know that as being a board member for Community Futures for the last 5-6 years or whatever it is, they do a lot of work in all our communities here. Nancy and her crew, Grand Cass, Jasper, Edson, Hinton, Yellowwood community, and that they always support us. They always come and try to help us out, and we ask them for help, and they step up to the plate here and that, and they let us know one way or another whether they can help us or not. But they do give us their support even if they can't help us and that. And I think this is a good thing in that, and I really appreciate them for doing that. And I appreciate us for helping them out also.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Curry?
I just want to kind of echo what Councillor Bevan said and just say I'm really excited for this. I think this is a great example of how we can work with our partners within the community, and instead of working against, but how we work together to move things forward. And I think with all that has happened in 2020, this is a fantastic way to move forward and hopefully have a better 21.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Just reiterates that very happy that we are building some extra capacity to support our business community. Small businesses struggling big time. People need to support our local businesses. I hope that with this position, we will be able to ensure that businesses will be able to survive through this. I know we have a number of other initiatives that we are working on thanks to the decisions this council and administration have made to reduce spending this year in order for us to save some dollars to redirect to recovery efforts. So I think it's really positive. I think it's a shining example to what other communities should be doing in order to leverage the expertise of external organizations as well as the dollars from the federal government. So very happy to see this move forward. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. No information items, sundry. Can I get a motion, please, that council direct administration to apply for a grant opportunity from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program for asset management program development in Edson with $25,000 to be released from the infrastructure reserve to go towards the costs of this initiative, and the town of Edson commits to conducting the following activities in its proposed projects submitted to the FCM program to advance its asset management program, citywide maintenance manager software module, asset management continuity plan. Easy for me to say. Can I get a motion for that, please? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. And we do have our Michael Passy here. You know what your title is off the top of my head?
Corporate Services Manager.
Corporate Services Manager. Go ahead, Michael.
I apologize for the wordy recommendation of the resolution that was provided to us by the by our asset management people who helped us with that to ensure that we will meet the grant funding requirements and for our application with that. This is something Mitch and I have been working on for a couple weeks now. He spoke to it last week. This is just to bring for formalization to allow us to start moving on these great improvements to our asset management plan.
All right, thank you. Councillor Curry.
Just through the chair, just wanted to clarify that this 25,000 is released to apply for the grant, but if the grant is not successful, that the 25,000 would not be used?
I believe that is correct, yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, just to clarify that.
Councillor Sherrard.
Just to refresh my memory, it's 25,000, and what do we get from that?
I believe we get up to 50,000.
So it'd be like a third, 2/3, 1/3.
We're required to put forward, it's an 80-20 grant.
Oh, it's an
So
80-20?
We're required to put 12,500 towards it. The 25,000 allows us to get all of the things we want to get done within it. So it ends up, if we use the full 25,000, then it would be more of a 1/3 split. But the grant requirements is that we provide 20% up to 50,000.
And can I do a follow-up? We have probably a lot of people watching us tonight, so just remind me what this was for again.
This is to enhance our asset management plan to ensure that we have proper data for all of the assets, underground buildings, whatever we have to create better data for us to make better decisions on, to provide data to council to make better decisions on. It allows the workers out in the field to take pictures of the assessment of the assets and update them on the whole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or concerns? When it comes to our asset management plan, once again, we are ahead of many communities on this, and I think it's really important, being a community over 100 years old and some very old infrastructure. The asset management plan, for those that are watching that are not aware, really is going to guide decision making for this council and future councils on what infrastructure gets replaced when. We're currently inputting a lot of data. This will allow us to enhance that so that our workers out in the field will be able to go out there and actually put data in real time, so that things such as West Haven Drive, when there's failures starting to happen, that's in there. We can pull an assessment and then decide whether or not those areas should be where those dollars are best spent. Really, this is to save taxpayers' dollars and enhance our infrastructure within our community. So glad to see this moving forward. On that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. We are going to go to council committee reports. We are going to go back to June 17th. And today we will start with Councillor Baylor.
Thank you. So on June 17th, I had an Edson Library Board meeting. So they're currently doing a curbside pickup. We've been approved for a summer student through the Canada Jobs Grant, and their main role will be sanitizing when we're open with the current allocations on how many people we can have in the library. Having more staff brought in would then reduce the patrons significantly. We're still tentatively planning to open August 4th, but we are waiting on a few things before we meet all the requirements to open. We were given some notice that the Elgin County has cut funding for the 2020 year, and they have planned on cutting that as well for 2021. Not COVID related, but more economic related. And then on June 19th, I had a meeting with the librarian as a part of the relaunch committee meeting to reopen and working on different budget scenarios throughout for the rest of the remainder of the year with our budget and what our different staffing allocations would be. On June 22nd, I had a Yellowhead Regional Library Board meeting via webinar, and so they started mid-February working on a pandemic response and have been the leaders in the province, offering support to all the other regional libraries as well. So they've been quite the shining stars amongst library boards. And we've recently received some information that libraries will be a method of distributing masks throughout the province as well. And they're starting to send those out, I think this week actually, to the libraries. On June 23rd, I had a committee of the whole meeting. June 25th, another relaunch budget committee meeting with the librarian to kind of narrow down our budget scenarios to present to the board. June 26th, I took place with the Emergency Management Advisory Committee along with the rest of council. July 14th, I had the FCSS Advisory Committee meeting. Following that was the Committee of the Whole meeting. And July 16th, a Library Building Committee meeting as well.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Right, on June 23rd, I had a Committee of the Whole meeting. June 24th, West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority meeting. We did hear from county representatives that they are having issues with identifying people at the regional landfill as to whether they're county or non-county. So we'll continue to hear that concern and as they deal with that issue. June 26th, with council, I was at the Emergency Management Advisory Committee. And July 6th, I was at the Youth Council Zoom meeting. We heard reports from Bruce Thompson, our Environmental and Fleet Manager, as well as we heard from Christina Seidel from Recycling Council of Alberta. And she gave a presentation on single-use plastics. And Youth Council is currently preparing a presentation for council on single-use plastics that we should hear fairly soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Wilkinson.
Okay, on June 19th, I had a full day strategic planning for FCSSA as the provincial representative for this area. On the 23rd, I had a Zoom meeting with Athabasca Watershed. And on the 24th, I went to the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management meeting with Councillor Sorensen, so heard the same concerns. On the 25th, I had an evergreen meeting and actually went to Hinton to chair it. It was just so much easier when it was the three of us there and chaired it with the others. And on the 26th, we had the emergency management meeting. On July 13th, we had another video conference meeting for Evergreen Foundation regarding having an agreement with Hinton about a seniors bus transportation. And on July 14th, we had the FCSS advisory meeting here when we had our Committee of the Whole meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp.
Mine's very easy due to COVID. June 23rd, Committee of the Whole. July 14th, FCSS and Committee of the Whole. And that's it for my report.
Councillor Perry.
On June 18th, I had the Community Features West Yellowhead, AGM, and happy to say that everything that happened with COVID, they still did a really fantastic. We do annual, with the funding, they have to do annual goals and set parameters, and they did a really fantastic job of meeting all of those. We were going to have a board meeting. We canceled the board meeting because they are hammered right now with the loans. So the extra funding that was given, every bit of money that we were received is being given out, and we are seeing if any other offices have money, and if they do, we will take it because they have just had that many apply. But it does sound like that's consistent across the province. And then June 23rd had the Committee of the Whole June 26th, the Emergency Management Committee, and then also on the 14th, I was at the FTSS Advisory and Committee of the Whole.
Councillor Bevan?
June 23rd, committee, June 25th, the RSC meeting, 26th was emergency management meeting, and June the 6th was a groundbreaking for the Chrysler Road, quite it out there and stuff like that. What else here? And FCS advisory on the 14th and committee of whole on the 14th also. And that is my report.
All right, thank you. June 23rd, committee of the whole on June 26th, the Emergency Management Advisory Committee meeting. June 28th, met with Minister McIver along with the Mayor of Yellowhead County at the county office, along with MLA Long. We had a really good discussion about the condition of the highways and the potholes and the increased funding that has gone into road maintenance. Obviously, with rain and everything and the amount of work that needs to be done, work will be continuing right through until the end of fall. Minister did ask for some patience. I know there's tons of potholes, especially on Highway 16, and he thanked us for being loud and proud about getting that fixed. And also talked about safe pedestrian crossings in Edson, and things are looking very favorable there. So hopefully we'll see some progress on that soon and some announcements. As well as he was very in tune with our resolution at AUMA, I believe it was 2 years ago, about development along the highway corridors. And his comment during our meeting is we should not be overruling mayors and councils and getting involved in municipal issues, and that we need to do some work in regards to the policies that Alberta Transportation has. Right now, they have a say in a big swath of development within the town of Edson. And we have seen over and over again with various developments, it has really hampered our ability to get construction going, and lots of costs associated with that. That doesn't mean traffic impact studies won't have to be done and certain criteria will have to be met, but it has to be a much better process than it is right now. So I was glad to hear him actually acknowledge that. I mean, I think that's the first time I've actually heard something in that regard. And I also have to commend Minister McIver. He has responded to every single letter we have sent, and he's met with this council once. Came out here. He actually came to see us, and we have not seen that previously. So I do thank him for that. And I thank Yellowhead County for hosting the meeting. They had a bigger space in order for us to physically distance. July 6th, we had the Youth Council meeting, a great presentation from Ms. Seidel, and I know Youth Council will be presenting here as well with their proposals. We also had the July 14th FCSS meeting, COW, and today I had a phone call with the Chief of Staff to the Minister of Municipal Affairs to talk about current bills that are before the legislature regarding election financing, as well as infrastructure funding and the COVID-19 response. As you may have heard, the federal government made an announcement, a huge funding announcement for the provinces last week, and as such, the province will be making an announcement that basically leverages those dollars in order to make some investments into municipalities. And I was told on the phone that we will be very happy with the announcement that's coming forward. So we'll see what that is. We've been hearing that for a while now. And that would be it. All right. Thank you. We'll move on. Can I get a motion, please, that council accept the 2020 June quarterly report as presented? Councillor Byron will make that motion, and Michael Passy, our corporate services manager, is here to give us an overview.
Yes, so before you have the June quarterly report. It's about 50% mark of the, or it is 50% mark of the year. In the memo, it states areas that are 10% off from that 50% mark. Overall, the budget looks in order. There's not anything that's really sticking out. Most of the things are invoicing that occurs at certain times of the year just hasn't been processed, or grants that are paid out at certain times of the year, and we see those as fluctuations to that. And then also in grants that we received, they either end up having received them, or they are entries that we do at the end of the year in the accounting system, the processes of that. With the capital update part of it, it has a few of the projects there, and we bring forward the ones that are projects over 500,000. And this is construction season now, and so at the end of June, it was kind of just kicking into that season. In September, we do bring a report on all of the capital projects and where they're at of all of them passed in the capital budget for the year. And then below that, it just has all of the tenders and the RFPs that have gone out and been awarded throughout the first half of the year. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, we'll open the floor. Councillor Bayer.
For the chair to Mccartney, thank you for providing these reports. I've got two questions. First one was in regards to, I guess, the cash flow, and generally our taxes are all due June 30th, and we extended that this year due to COVID. How does our current position with receiving those tax notices line up to previous years?
I don't have a side-by-side analysis of how much we receive right now and how much we receive what we have right now. But as far as cash flows, we aren't worried that we will run out of cash to continue operations in the town. Once we reach that point when they're due, which is September 30th, after that, then we will look and see how many have we received, what has not been received, and how that compares. Just we don't have that information at the time.
Thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Through the chair to administration, can you just explain the bullets here? Facilities maintenance 84%, town is required to pay property taxes for the medical center. Is that paying taxes to ourselves?
It is. It's an accounting entry that ends up happening. It has been left out in the past. We were reviewing our own processes, realized that because we generate revenue from that in rent, that we are required to pay taxes. So it's not a tax exempt property. It just kind of is a wash. It's in and out. It has to be, we have to recognize it due to legislation, but it's an in and out kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Going forward, it would be
budgeted appropriately.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Chouinard.
On your capital update, so we're not going to hear until September. So I guess I'm just asking now, do any of them look like they're going to be in trouble and they're going to be coming back to us asking for more money?
I do not know that.
Because that would be a very important question, because every time we do a major project, and it's a lot of time unforeseen, so we have no surprises coming, or will there in September?
Through the chair to Councillor Chouinard, I have not heard any concerns for that from the operations and from those in charge of the capital projects. Haven't come through me.
Okay.
And through to administration, I think administration is very in tune to council's desires not to have that happen.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I may just add to that, this has been reported in my kind of sundry reporting to council on a weekly basis, that the only capital project that we're currently aware of that has some significant questions is the Vision Park project, which would be the well house and then the enhanced facilities for Vision Park. Is currently delayed by water licensing issues. We have to have some approvals from Alberta Environment Parks. Those have not come through, and while it's unlikely that that project will be constructed this year based on the delays as they sit right now. Council will be briefed in greater detail at minimum in September, but that's the only major capital project issue that I'm aware of, just off the top of my head.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Through to Mr. Passy, this is just in relation to what Councillor Bayer had asked. So we don't know how much tax revenue we've collected so far this year. I just noticed it says in the report total tax revenue that we're only under 126,000, but I don't know if that's actual.
Right. So to Chair, we recognize it as in our revenues as received, and then we would set up accounting accounts of liability accounts of what is not received, and then we would know at that time, at that September 30th, where it's sitting at, what accounts aren't paid, and then we would have a follow-up to know of where that's at that time. But on this, if we show the revenue as received, because through the MGA, we're able to collect it through various measures down. If it's not this year, then it's down the road through different procedures. It's whether those get set up down the road to those liability accounts to receive that at another time. So when we reach that deadline, then we'll know where we're sitting at.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barr, you had another question?
I did, thank you. Through the chair to administration, I was observing on the RFPs, some of them had quite a few submissions. Are we noticing any differences in the amounts of people submitting to the RFPs, or is it more a matter of the type of work required?
I'm not part of the awarding of those RFPs. I'm not sure what they're receiving, and depending on their projects, I'm sure they receive different amounts of submissions.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I can't comment in great detail on this. I can say that it does matter the type of work and scope of the project. You may recall that as part of our efforts at Vision Park, we were engaging a formal study on what will be the best ways to enhance and invest in that park in the future. I believe that there was 17 submissions for that potential work, and so we feel very comfortable that our proposals are being viewed and engaged, generally speaking, but it does vary by project scope and type, and we see a little bit of a different result based on the nature of the project itself.
All right, thank you. Just further on that note, the Vision Park study with user groups, I've received very positive feedback from the user groups who are really impressed that we're actually asking the questions before we start making changes out there. So, and I think the firm that's doing it must be doing a pretty good job. So, question on sales of goods and services. I see we're at 42%. Revenue is down more than it should be. Is that mainly just due to the time of year, or should we be concerned that we are going to have a revenue issue on that budget line at year end? We're budgeted 5.3 million and we got 2.2 million right now. It's at 42%.
Given that it's in that 10%, it's not something that I had looked at in a detailed manner. Part of that would be due to the deferral of making payments on utilities and some of those things. That if they weren't required to pay, we may see that they aren't being paid at this time. Again, we would hope to see that then paid when we bring that back in, that they are due every month. Again, that's a bit of the tricky part of what this year looks like and seeing how things go. We believe that there will be people who have May, but it will be something we have to see as it goes.
If I may add to that again, Your Worship, I think I would describe this as a yellow light, not a red light. Yes, something to be aware of and to watch. I think as Mr. Passy suggested, we know some of the reasons why this may be lagging. Also, I think intuitively we can all just understand that that this will have the economic status of the community as a whole will have a general impact on us in this area. Does this include user fees as well? So this would include fees from Repsol Place that we have not been including, and so yes, those types of impacts, and they are going to be lower than I think even what we've anticipated here. But it does depend a little bit on how things go through the fall as we reopen. Currently anticipated that will obviously generate close to the normal activity there, and that may have a positive impact in these numbers as well. So we're certainly aware of those impacts, and we'll be watching them closely.
Okay. One final question on the 22 street rehabilitation. I see we got a really good quote. Are we still going to be spending the budgeted amount, or are we going to be spending the price quoted on that road rehabilitation work? I understand this company is already working the area, which has probably helped to get us that nice low number.
Mike, I can handle that one. Yeah, so this quote was specific to the West Haven portion of the project, but we will be engaging this company to expend the total of the $1.2 million. There's a number of other smaller trouble areas. They're more substantial than filling a pothole, but they are pavement patching, as in large sections of pavement that are troubled would be cut and or milled and replaced appropriately. And then bringing us to expend and get as much value as we can for the allocated amount.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Other questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting? Ms. Dorr? Nothing? All right, we have no closed session. Motion for adjournment. Councilor Chenard, all those in favor? Motion carried right at 10 o'clock. Thank you.